Hello everyone! Welcome to the end of May vlogathon. Vlogathon? Yes, it's the end of May, nearly. This weekend is the end of May. I'm going up for my mum and stepdad's party that I mentioned this weekend, so I'm recording this now so that I can get it out before I go. It's been a bit of an interesting month. It's been a bit up and down. I've had moments of joy, moments of boredom, and my sewing's been a bit on and off in terms of my motivation to do it. So we've been on an interesting journey. But the two things that I said I would make, I have made, and it feels like a lot more than two because the dress took 2 toiles and then a lot of precision sewing, and it's fully lined, so technically that's 2 dresses. So I count that as 4 things. So I've made 5 things this month, but you're only going to see 2 of them. So let's talk about the stuff I've made. First up, the Chloe coat. Here's the Chloe coat. So this is the Sew Over It class that they've just launched. I think I was run 2. And here is the version that I made in that lovely fabric. I really like it. This is not the kind of coat I would normally wear because I tend to go with things that are fitted. So this does somewhat hide what's going on under here, but that's no bad thing. But I really like the loose style of it. And it's lovely to throw it on and have it undone and kind of swish off down the street. The fabric just makes me super happy. Yeah, so I'll tell you about the things that I did and didn't do, but I'll sit down. Because I've realised if I talk too much standing over there, you can't really see or hear what I'm doing. So I'm going to kind of sit down again. The coat itself is actually very simple to sew. There's no massively difficult things. A few things I hadn't come across before. So I learned that stay stitching you're supposed to do in a particular way that I had definitely not been doing it, so that was helpful. I always find if you go on a course, there's normally 1 or 2 tiny little things that they tell you that make it worth going on, almost beyond the thing that you end up making. So stay stitching was one for me. The other was Pentel Fusion pens, and actually I've realised one of them is under the table. One moment. Talk amongst yourself. There we go. Woo! Bit of exercise for the day. It's glamorous, isn't it? I'm so elegant. This thing. Oh, this was life-changing. So this is a Pilot friction pen. Can you see that? I'm sorry, this camera doesn't focus very nicely when it's close up, but it's a Pilot friction pen. Friction spelt F-R-I-X-I-O-N. Why do companies do that? So I'm going to put Z's on the end of stuff to try and make it sound cool. Don't do it. Anyway, my own personal branding issues. So these pens are ballpoint. I know I'm talking about a pen. There's a reason. Are gel rollerball pens, so they write like a normal pen would, but then they've got a rubber on the end and you can rub them out. Turns out that what that means is they disappear with heat, because basically all you're doing when you're rubbing it out is creating heat. Which means if you draw a load of fabric and then iron it, it disappears. And it's amazing. I used it for so much of my dress, I can't tell you, and it was a lifesaver. So they come in loads of colours, so you can do it in like pink. Yeah, so that was one of the tips that Julie gave. That was great. Yeah, so go to work. Stop talking about pens. So this dart down the front here is something that I hadn't sort of done before. So that's so big that you cut the middle of it out and then join it almost like a seam. So I'd not done that before. The interfacing we used was really lovely, and one that they sell at Sew Over It. It's a really nice, high quality, very mobile interfacing to help give the whole thing some stability. So cutting all the interfacing pieces out, there was a lot of cutting out. So it was 3 3-hour sessions. The first 3 hours was just cutting out the main fabric, all our pieces, checking fit, adjusting if necessary, but I made very few adjustments, and then cutting out in the main fabric. So in between classes I had to cut it out in the lining and interfacing because I hadn't got around to doing it. So that takes quite a lot of time. It's got a sleeve head in it, which I've seen before in patterns and tutorials but never done, so that was really good to have that experience and sew that in by hand. Getting the corners at the top to fold out the way they were supposed to and all of that kind of thing caused me a couple of issues, and we managed to fix. So I was quite pleased. I decided that as this was something I was investing quite a lot of money and time into, I wanted it to be perfect by the time I finished. So I didn't do my usual cutting of corners and going, a bit messy, but it'll be fine. And I'm so pleased I did, because it's now working really well. On the original coat, this zip is actually placed here. It's 4 centimetres in. Because it sits on the front of the coat, it's a real feature. And I didn't really like the way the white looked, and I wasn't confident enough that I was going to get the colour to match. So I just moved it over, and it just sits on the inside of this seam, so it runs right down the edge of the coat, which means that it still does up exactly as it's supposed to, but it's hidden and it's a lot more subtle. And because it's gold and this little tiny bit of white, I actually think it looks quite smart. So that was great. Oh, lining choice. I don't want to show you the reveal of the next thing, but that's my lining. It's like lovely pistachio colour, which also makes me happy. Yeah, so coat. I wear it all the time. I love it. I get comments on it most of the time when I walk out the door. Not many people wearing this sort of thing out in London, it turns out. I'm really pleased with it. It turned out beautifully. Moving on to the dress. So I laugh every time I talk about this on this vlog, because it's been such a process. So I videoed my first toile in my April Makes video, which shows you how long this has taken, because I only finished this dress last night. And I will show you the result. So here is, taking the coat off. Here is the dress. When I did the second toile for this dress, I filmed it to say what adjustments I'd made. I've just deleted the video off my computer, so I'm now going back over it. The first toile I made, if you remember, had a massive back problem. So I took 3 inches out of the back waist to shorten it. I took 2 inches out of the back centre seam to bring it in at the sides. I had to shorten the dress by 9 inches. 9! I mean, I'm short, but you know, this was made for a woman who's 6 foot tall. So I had to take 9 inches off the bottom. I had to take the side seams in by sort of between ½ inch and 1 inch in various different places. I moved the shoulder seams in because the shoulder seams were a bit wide and was sitting out about here, and because I've got quite broad shoulders anyway, anything that brings those in a bit is helpful. I lowered the V on the front by about 1 inch because it was sitting up here and it just wasn't quite the right place for me. And I'll do the whirly whirl. I love it. It was a complete labour of love, but my goodness do I love it. I love the fit. That took obviously a lot of work to get the toile to do what it needed to do, and then to make the slight adjustments that were needed in the actual fabric. I love the style of it, but it wasn't easy, and there are a few things that I wanted to record for posterity. So, the fabric, although beautiful, wonderful to touch and not work with. It was not wonderful to work with. It's 100% polyester, so it didn't really like to be pressed. And pressing all of the seams in this, and obviously there are seams right the way down the front which really do need to be pressed out or they would look weird, was quite a process. So that was one particular thing, and as you can tell it still needs a bit of pressing, because even though I pressed it just before I put it on, it started to sort of pucker up again. So there was that. These princess seams at the bust line, don't know if you can see, these ones, oh my goodness, are tricky. I did 2 toiles, and I did this dress twice because it's fully lined. I should have done the lining first in hindsight, because it would have given me a practice run so that I could figure out exactly how to get that to work properly, because on my toiles I sort of botched it a bit and I was like, I'll figure it out when I do the real thing. Yeah, don't do that, work it out on your toile. But because it's a square seam, which obviously are a bit of a pain anyway, because you have to sew down to the corner, pivot round, move all of your fabric, and then sew down the rest of the way. That's hard enough as it is, but then because it's all gathered, there's loads of fabric above that line, which means that you've got to try and manipulate it and not mess up your gathers, and yeah, those were tricky and caused me a few huffy puffy sweary moments. Sorry, camera cut out, it does that. It's irritating. So I'm really pleased with how the front sits. This bit sat very nicely. The collar I did 3 times. I had to take the collar off the first time because it was too long, even though it wasn't too long on the toile. Weird. Cut it down, put it back on again, finished pretty much everything on the dress, looked at it and went, it doesn't seem to be quite right. Went back to the instructions and realised I was supposed to interface the collar pieces at the very beginning and didn't. So took it off again, interfaced it, then put it back on. And now finally it's broadly right. It's still got a little bit of puckering here. I think when I slip stitched it, I must have caught something. So I probably need to just unpick that and do it again. But otherwise it's mostly there. The side zip, so it has a side zip running up here. And that was fine, other than the fact that the pattern actually has an extension and asks you to shut it with snaps, poppers in the UK. And I thought, that's a bit weird. I think it's quite traditionally vintage to do that, but I just thought no. And it said you can put an invisible zip in, so I thought I'd do that. But because both of the seams had already been finished by the time that you come to that point in the instructions, I then had to unpick the side seam to make sure that it would all line up and do what it was supposed to do. I got all of that done, and having spent a lot of time on this dress and made sure that I didn't rush it and I didn't do stupid things, and every time I trimmed thread I didn't accidentally trim the fabric, and you know, all the things that you do when you're tired and very annoying, I got to the point where it was pretty much finished and I needed to hem it. And so I put it on my dress form so that I could use my hem gauge to make sure it was flat. And as I put it over my dress form, I ripped it. And the point above the zip, the fabric ripped. And weirdly, actually, it was fine. I was like, oh, okay. Like, it wasn't oh my God. So I had to hand darn that hole and then hand sew that seam up again. I couldn't do it on the machine because the lining, it was in a really hard place to get to with the machine. So I hand sewed it, and it's fine because it's under my arm. You can't see it. And even if I lift my arm up, it's not too bad. It's a bit puckery, but it's fine. And thankfully that hole now isn't going to get any worse. But I don't know if you've ever had that where you've worked on something for days and something happens where it all goes horribly wrong. It's that sinking feeling. Yeah, it's quite sad. But it was fine, and I think I've managed to save it. Yeah, I think that's probably about it. I can stand up again so you can see it again. Yeah, so it feels like I made 5 things, made 2, but you know, next month I shall try to do some slightly quicker wind sewing, I think. But yes, enjoy the long weekends. There are long weekends in the UK and the US this week. Hopefully it's sunny. I'm going to go up and do this party thing for my mum and stepdad. And thank you. Subscribe, like, do all those things that you do on the social medias. And I will see you again very soon. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.